I have to start by reading this. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to record the proceedings and are requested to give prior notice so that any additional measures that may assist can be put into place. Any member of the public who has any concerns should raise them now. Right, moving on. Item 1, apologies for absence. We have one or two missing.
We have apologies from David Minnery, Ed Potter and Leslie Peter.
Right. Okay, I was trying to count them.
No. I'll let you check.
That's very right. Disposable pecuniary interests. Nobody seems to indicate anything. Minutes of the last meeting, 3rd of July. Can I sign them as a true record? Yeah, okay, thank you. Item 4, pocket question times. I don't think there are any. Item 5, member question time. No. Scrutiny items. And we've got the report from Performance Management Scrutiny on Community Infrastructure Levy, which is attached. Now, is it in order to do items 6 and 7 together? I think that would make sense, wouldn't it? You know, because item 7 is Community Infrastructure Levy update. So we'll combine the two together and see. So, anybody want to start? Willem, do you want to start?
Thank you, Leader. I'm grateful for the ability to have this cabinet today. Part of the criticism we may have had in the past is the lack of communication of what's going on around SIL and everything else. And it is my firm intention, both working with the staff working group and with members and everybody else, to keep the SIL process open and transparent, and to be doing this on a regular basis. I'd like to thank the Task and Finish group for the work that they have done, but also over the last 4 months, particularly thank the newly in place plan officers and Sarah Hughes, particularly, who've overseen the 18 place plan meetings that we've had. And I think we also need to recognise the engagement from all the town and parish councils to those meetings and their membership. And I've really felt a huge change in the tone of understanding on the place plans and how we're working and moving forward, which is nothing but good news. I think as the place plans move forward, there's going to be a huge an aspiration to the place plans to be part of the underpinning of the new community strategy and rural strategy, which we'll be working on and having member groups in September. And I'm pleased also in the process that the recommendations show that realistically there's very little change, and what we have been doing has been the right way forward. And with that in mind, Chair, I move the report. Thank you.
Well, the only thing I can see that doesn't sort of align with the two reports, the performance management one and the report to committee, is about on the recommendations from the scrutiny. The second point says include the existing members of Civil Task and Finish group in future meetings of current informal officer and member civil discussion group. Does that comply with what we're saying on the report to council, item 2? That the portfolio holder holds meetings and members as required in order. Now,
I think
the wording is slightly different.
Yeah,
I just
if
wanted to make
I
sure
can actually explain on that, and I think at the end of the day, we very much listened to what the Task and Finish group were actually asking, but the situation stood that if we had a case whereby we needed to have that conversation, it would be very restricted if I could only talk to the members of the Task and Finish group, where in fact I might need to talk to other portfolio holders, other members from across the county. And so I put in there a representation from the Task and Finish group. I don't think I needed to have all 6 or 7 there. So it was getting that middle balance needed, that I could pull on whoever I needed, but also include the Task and Finish group.
Right. So in terms of the decision-making process today, do we need to note what performance management is saying and then make our own decisions?
That's right. Yeah. I'm sorry for that. I didn't make that
No,
clear.
well, I'm trying to just make sure everybody's clear on how it's going to work.
Effectively, I can listen to scrutiny, see what they say, and then make my own mind up, which is what I have done in these recommendations.
Right. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm disappointed that there's nobody here from the Task and Finish group or the Performance Scrutiny can actually present this report. I would have thought it's important enough to warrant that. I sit on the Task and Finish group and the Performance, but I disagree with the findings of the Task and Finish group and the Performance, and I registered mine at the meeting, so it is a majority decision. So I'm giving my own personal view and not on behalf of the Performance Scrutiny because of it. But in 2012, 2010, Shropshire Council adopted SANDEP, the present planning policy. I and a number of other councillors went out there advocating to communities to start building houses to meet the requirements of Shropshire Council. One of those was that SIL, which was going to be introduced, would give them, as well as a neighbourhood fund, some money to actually deal with some of their local priorities as long as they were connected with the new development. That was the undertaking given by all the members at that time, quite cross-party, and it was done by all the officers at that time. Right the way through, that was the story that was sent out to the parishes, and a number of parishes came forward with development with that understanding in place. In 2015, and I see in the papers, there's no reference to this, which surprises me as background papers. I thought it was mandatory or otherwise that all background papers should be stipulated in the report as reference. And it's a complete blank. It doesn't even say that background reports should be doing it. And it's in red on page 27, list of background papers.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear, but okay. I've had advice that the report is still valid, even though it doesn't contain that. But parishes, members went out there and fought and went forward with that idea that SIL would be used. Reading the reports, it's now going to be decided by officers. Officers will sit in closed session in secret to decide how it is going to be spent, SIL local. There's a member group, which the cabinet member was referred to as an advisory consultation, but if there is any difference, it will be delegated and decision made by the director of place, and there is no appeal. A number of parishes put in expressions of interest, EOIs as it is called, for it. A number of them have been ruled out because of the interpretation that officers have made on the SIL regulations, that they are not connected with the local development. Parishes were not contacted and asked, can you give further information? How is this connected with that development? It was just gone.
Can I stop you there? Because I've talked to Salk about this, who represents the parish council, and they are quite happy with the way the arrangements have been working. And that was a meeting, I think, last week or the week before.
I understand you met with the chief officer of Salk and did it. If you
Yeah.
talk to some of the parishes in my area, you'll find that they are not. They are wondering how they can appeal, put it forward, or anything like this. I don't know if they can. There are a number that was thrown out. In the report, it says that it is recognised that there's a number of parishes want to go with this traffic improvements and traffic alterations in the area, and there's going to be a group, and it's going to come forward to see how SIL can be used to use this. Either it can be
There is some
legally
confusion,
or not.
There is some confusion about what were traffic schemes that were in the programme for highways and what was SIL traffic schemes. And SIL is not going to be able to replace all the schemes that were delayed in the capital programme for highways. And that's where there's a lot of confusion. I'm sorry, I talk to lots of the parishes a lot of the time.
That understanding may be with some, but others put forward expressions of interest based on development within their area and the effect that the extra traffic generated by those developments would affect. It has been ruled out. But in the report on page 6. Right near the end of the item 7, it says that there will be a group formed to look at traffic schemes to see how SIL can assist them or not. Now, can SIL legally do it or not? If it can't, it can't. If it can, it can. But if you can, why do we need a separate group to look at it? No request was went
So,
to
also you're
Selk.
suggesting we delegate it to officers? I thought you said the opposite about 2 minutes ago.
No. I would like, tomorrow there is a meeting with Selk to look at the SIL and to do it, and the previous two have been cancelled. Cabinet is reaching a decision today on how to do it, and there's a meeting with Selk councillors tomorrow to actually talk about it. Cabinet will have already made the decision. There is widespread dissatisfaction and Shropshire
I have to
Council's
say, I
reputation.
totally disagree with what you're saying. When I talk to Selk, they are quite happy as a body with what we are doing. There might be individual councils that have a problem, but Selk as a body, which represents town and parish councils across the county, are quite happy with the way this is proceeding.
If one went to the last working group with Selk, you would have realised at that time they were not. I could go on to more, Chairman, but I think I'm only here as a semi-visitor for the Cabinet. I think I've stipulated the case, and if you went out to talk to many parishes, you'll find, not all, but many parishes, especially the rural parishes, not the towns, the rural, and if you look at the central area, place plan area for the central area covers almost a third of this county. And it is said in the report that SIL local has not generated enough cash to actually carry out the strategic work that Shropshire Council does. And in the central area, I see there's nearly £5 million of SIL spent on the Shrewsbury Integrated Transport Package. Parishes wouldn't go with that, they would want it spent in their local area.
Right, so now ask Willem to respond, and then I'll go to Simon Harris afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger, for your views and opinions. Unfortunately, I think they are somewhat historic. What you have to remember is the expressions of interest were actually presented to us in March, prior to us having the rounds of the place plan meetings where we engaged fully with the 18 place plan areas and all those town and parish councils, the chairmans and clerks, and maybe more people who came to those meetings. I do understand your frustration in the refusal of a lot of the small highways projects. That was basically down to the Communities Act, which, believe it or not, and this is a lot of the problem we have in the rural areas, a lot of these acts are designed around metropolitan areas or much more built up areas, because the Community Act actually specifies that if you have housing and an expansion of your area which creates more traffic, that will naturally slow the traffic down. So you don't actually need traffic calming. That's what the Government Act says. Believe me. Absolutely, I'm totally with you, because you know where I stand on the rural areas. That is why I am working very closely with the portfolio holder for highways and with the officers, Sarah Hughes, as I said before, to look at ways in which we can understand and use the Act to create a pot of money specifically for delivering projects which which are very important to these communities. I fully understand, Roger, coming from a very rural part of this county, that speed restrictions in a parish are as important as city bis to Shrewsbury, and it matters just as much. And I will do whatever I can to ensure that those parishes get their representation moving forward, but we have to work within the Communities Act. With the lead from, I've spoken to David Beachy, Rose Abbis, and the officers from Selk, and they fully agree with my way forward. And they fully agree with the fact that I should be allowed, as portfolio holder, to pull into any meeting who I need to make a discussion on the occasion that there is a disagreement between officers and members on a decision-making process. Furthermore, that is now historic. The expressions of interest were before we had the place plans and all the information on the place plans. Moving forward, we will still ask towns and communities to bring forward changes to their live place plan document. They can still put forward expressions of interest anytime they wish if they're not on the place plan document. But moving forward, that process shouldn't be there. Because if something's been put on the place plan and how it's delivered will have to be an outcome that we come to a conclusion with. The other very important point to mention here is SIL is a minor part of the budget for delivery to these communities. The overall budget that we've had within SIL is 20 million across the whole county. I would imagine what we have now on those place plan reports is hundreds of millions of pounds worth of stuff. And it will be our challenge, along with working with our communities, to ensure that we get the right outcome at the right time using the right money. And that's what I'll be working towards. And I will be doing it very much working together with SALC, as I have, and the town and parish councils. Thank you.
I did say Simon next, but I'm sure you would agree that ladies should go first. So, Pauline.
Thank you. Can I'm glad to hear about this Communities Act, so that passed me by. I mean, in the hospital and things, I seem to keep missing meetings. This Community Act specifies that traffic is slowed down by development. What a load of rubbish. Because the congestion in the rural areas and the market towns is caused by narrow streets which are designed for horse and cars, and it's just, you know, it's just ridiculous. Steve Duncan has been involved in Wem Town and Wem Rural with the Wem Economic Forum, which I'm sorry.
Quite interesting and different.
It's Australia calling, sorry. Australia calling it, I'm sorry. The Wem Town Council and Wem Rural worked with Shropshire Council officers and Steve to come up with a really good scheme to implement it, to try and make the traffic better in the town. And when Wem Town Council applied for the funding to go with this, to implement this work and to make the changes needed to make the traffic go better, flow better, you know, just turning round you know, traffic and making one-way systems differently, which were approved by the public. I mean, we stood, you know, for 2 weeks, you know, taking opinions from the public, getting to fill in survey forms which were approved by Shropshire Council officers, and you know, we were really quite excited. We thought, well, we'll get the money and we'll be able to implement some of it. And then when we applied for it, we were told, no, it's not the sort of thing that you're going to have. Well, you know what? You know, we're the people on the ground. We're the elected members as a Shropshire Town and Shropshire Councillor. And you know, we're listening to our people. You know, why won't the officers listen to us? And please help us to make it better for our towns.
Well, I hope that Gwilym and Steve getting together will sort of try and resolve some of those issues.
Pauline, I'm totally with you. It's not just Wem and everywhere else. I think we have to understand where we are with the SIL and how much money we physically got. We have to understand the Communities Act. And I will say this, there may be a role here that the communities and the town councils may have to put some of their neighbourhood fund to some of these projects. Because at the end of the day, we haven't got an endless pot. And it's prioritising what we need to deliver. So, but I will do whatever I can to deliver these smaller projects, as long as we can do them legally.
Simon next, then I'll ask Steve Duncan.
Thank you. As you understand, I spoke in a Builders Parish Council meeting the other week over this SIL. Broseley is probably one of the success stories of it. We're currently going in, the park has just had an £82,000 revamp paid for through SIL money. But one of the aspects of that is the joint working with Shropshire Council and the Town Council. Because yes, we did use some of our local money. And we've done, I think that's where you've got to realise how it has to be a joint project all the way through. The other thing that's come out is we've had a letter lately from Gemma over the fact that we can use it for cemetery and burial grounds. And this is quite a controversial thing around the county as we get an older population around. These things have got to be looked at. And so Broseley Town Council is currently looking at the expansion of that as well. The place plan officers is an open thing. The discussions that we have with our officers is perfect. The system at the moment, the way the SIL system is working, is perfect. And I can't see anything wrong with it, Roger. Sorry. The other aspect of that, bless you, is the environmental maintenance grant that we all did and we all sat on, out of all the town and parish councils that applied for it, 44 have. £64,000 has been allocated from that pot of money, still leaving £11,000 of this year's pot still available. Are the town and parish councils getting to grips with the money that they have, and can they have for their future? I don't know. These things got to be maybe advertised a little bit. I don't know. But there is money out there and they've got to learn to use it. Sorry.
I'm quite interested in the thing about cemeteries. So if somebody wants to expand the cemetery or improve it, that could come from partly from SIL.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Okay, yes, but it has to be a joint project. It has to have local and neighbourhood funding in it. It has to be together.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just start quote on that? Thank you for bringing that thing about the environmental grants. We've got the Milton South tomorrow, and I'll raise that with them. There is still outstanding grant. In the existing round of expressions of interest we had, I think there was 3 or 4 market towns that put forward for burial grounds. In principle, we can use SIL, but obviously we're working with our burial officer to look at whether it's the right way to go or not, and also 106 agreements, and depending where the housing is, etc., and where the land is.
Yeah.
So we're working with communities on
I have a problem with burial grounds and
Floodplains.
it's never easy. Right, Steve.
Well, thank you.
Firstly, thanks for the money that's already been allocated to highways. Also, I've got to do now to make sure they're delivered. Also, there are expressions of interest still awaiting a decision on whether we make it.
The expressions of interest, it goes back to what Roger was asking about these ones on highways. What we actually did, we sent the letters out saying, although you are your initial application has been declined at the moment, we're working with officers at highways to find out a way that we can actually deliver that. I've been briefed by officers, Sarah and Gemma, they are working on this, and this is where my officers have got to talk, my people have got to talk to your people. It's going as it happens. I'm hopeful that we will have some leading examples by the autumn. I'm not going to say September, I'm going to say the autumn, depending on holidays, etc. And hopefully I'll be addressing a lot of what Roger is asking.
Roger, you're next on the list.
Thank you. I know Broseley Town Council, success. Ponsonby Parish Council, success. Many others haven't, they've been rejected. And if I can look at the actual report for SIL, year end in December 2017, then, before I go on, and I support that if a parish wants to use SIL local, they should put their SIL neighbourhood funding with it and match it.
Yeah,
Okay, support that, because if you want to use it, should use some of their own. But in this report, I noticed that Condover Parish, multi-use games area at Torrington, SIL local used. Whitchurch Rural Parish, speed reduction through Ash Barber, SIL local used. So it can be used on some, but not others. That's where the actual...
Sometimes it's the quality of the schemes and what's actually being asked for. We do judge, we don't just get to throw it willy-nilly at everybody. We do have to judge whether the schemes justify the money. I'll do Simon first, then Willem.
Yeah, I understand that, but then you've got to work with your place plan officer. You've got to get the wording right. You've got to get this...
Come on,
Oh,
you
of
need
course you
money.
can. No.
If you're working with,
need-
working with Shropshire Council and they agree, the officers agree what you want is viable.
I think WEM will be a different, because I think WEM will end up having to be paid for out of the highways budget rather than the SIL budget. And we will try and deliver your scheme for you, but it may need to come from a different budget. Right, sorry, Simon.
No, I'm fine.
Right, Willem?
Yeah. Going back to what Roger's saying, it's difficult to look at individual examples without having all the information. There is issues around volume of development, because in a rural hamlet, a dozen houses is the same as 300 in Shrewsbury.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. Okay? And we also have to understand how this process evolves. And I could give you several examples. That Place Plan A will have 300 or 400 more cars going through it all every day, because Place Plan B will have 1,000 houses. So how do we get the money from Place Plan B to spend in Place Plan A to improve their roads? That just gives you one of the issues that we've got to look at, and we're going to have to take a far bigger holistic view on what we do. But I'll go back to it again. So far, over the last, since that SIL came into incorporation, we've collected circa 20 million. Now, out of a budget that this council spends, it is a drop in the ocean. So SIL is not the answer to everything. It is part of the process of greasing the wheels. So it needs to be part of the bigger picture of how we evolve. And I'm very keen, and thank you, Roger, for your support, that communities must use, they must come together as a team to use some of the neighbourhood fund to get other gearing into this council and into their communities, so we get more bucks for our pounds.
Yeah, great.
And I will be working with that. Thank you.
Right, now we'll go to making some decisions. So there are two separate reports. So there's the report 6 from scrutiny. So I'm looking at Claire to make sure I'm saying the right thing. So if we note that report,
Yes.
right, so I'll move, or
Yeah.
I'm happy to move it.
Yeah,
Second.
that's fine. I'll say.
Yeah, so we note the report from scrutiny. Is everyone in agreement with that? Yeah, right. And then I'll move.
If I can move my recommendations, and as I said in my warm-up, I want this to be a process more about place plans of where SIL is part of the funding. Delivering those place plans needs to be more focused on the capital budgets, external funding, 106, new homes bonus, etc. And I'm confident that we'll be bringing regular reports back to Cabinet in a transparent and open way, working with SELC. I've got no problem in moving these recommendations. Thank you.
Okay. I'm happy to second, so all those in favour of the report, right? Thank you. Moving along. Delegation of powers to Ellesmere Town Council in respect of making a declaration of Birch Road Recreational Area and Pond, Ellesmere, as a local nature reserve. Now, Leslie Pickton's the portfolio holder, but she's away, but she's keen that this decision be made. I'm trying to think, oh yeah, I knew she'd allocated it to somebody.
A bit of green space. So, as you said, Leader, it's very simple. The town council are keen to dedicate Birch Road Rec and Pond as a local nature reserve, and to do so we need to discharge that into the delegate power for the town council to be able to do so. So the paper's very simple, everything's laid out in there, and the benefits are listed in bullet point 1.3 there. So I don't think I need to say any more, but leave it.
Right, and the recommendation is on page 30, 2.1. Just so I'm clear, are we, if we make the decision now, does this need to go to council, or is the decision with us?
I think it's an executive decision.
Yeah. Okay, just so everybody's clear. Right, all those in favour, please show. Right, thank you. Item 9, exclusion of the press and public. Everyone in agreement? I just see. Yeah, right. We won't be long.